Hello, this is Mr. Stansbury. I'm going to take you through some of the problems from the 14A assignment. First one we're going to take a look at is number 1. Classify each random variable as continuous or discrete. Okay, so basically remember continuous is anything, anything that you measure, and discrete is anything that you count. Okay, so quantity of fat in a sausage, that is something that we are going to measure, so this is going to be continuous. Okay, the weight of a year 12 student, that is something that you measure, continuous. And the reason why these are continuous is because you could measure it to any degree of accuracy. That's kind of the big thing. Number of trout in a lake, that's something that you count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that is discrete. Okay, and the length of a horse's mane, again, that's something that you measure, so that is continuous. Okay. Okay, for number 3 here, it says suppose the spinners alongside are spun, and x is the sum of the numbers. So it's going to be the sum of the two numbers of the spinners. Okay. So explain why x is a discrete random variable. Because they're probably the simplest way to describe that is because they have there's a countable number of possible outcomes. Okay, so and then part B says state the possible values of x. This will actually showing B will help us with the explanation for A there a little bit. Okay, so we could get 1 and 1, which would give us a total of 2, and then 1 and 2, 3. So let's see, it's 1 through 6. So we get 1 plus all of these is going to be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then 2 plus all of those, 1 through 5 will give us the same numbers, minus the 2. But 2 plus 6 will give us 8. 3 plus 6 will give us 9. 4 plus 6 will give us 10. So these are all the distinct possible outcomes, so those are countable. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 9 of them. Okay, so that kind of helps explain why x is also a discrete random variable. Okay. Last one we're going to take a look at here is number 6. Suppose 3 coins are tossed simultaneously. Let x be the number of heads that result. State the possible values of x. Okay. So they're not asking us to make like a tree diagram, but it might help us better understand this. So I'm just going to do that really quick. So let's do this. We'll do the first flip. Will either give us heads or tails. And then the second flip, if you get heads on the first, you can either get heads or tails on the second. If you get tails on the first, you can still get heads or tails on the second. And then the third flip, we can do the same thing, heads or tails for each, right? And then this will help us because now we can just go through and count the possible values of x. So we want to know x is the number of heads, so let's just count the number of heads. On this route here, there are 3 heads, heads, tails. There's 2. Heads, tails, heads, 2. Heads, tails, tails, just 1. Tails, heads, heads, that's 2. Tails, tails, heads, tails, heads, tails, that's 1. Tails, tails, heads, that's 1. And tails, 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 that's 0. So for A, state the possible values of x. We've got 0, 1, 2, or 3. Okay. For B, list all the possible outcomes and corresponding values of x. Basically, they're saying how can we get 0 heads? We can get that by doing tails, tails, tails. How can we get 1 head? That's by tails, tails, heads. Tails, tails, heads. Tails, heads, tails. And then also heads, tails, tails. And then what are the ways we can get 2 heads? So that is going to be, say, let's see if we keep going this idea, tails, heads, heads. And then we also have heads, tails, heads. And we also have heads, heads, tails. And then there's only one way to get 3, and that's all heads. Okay? So now we've listed the possible outcomes and the corresponding values of x. So that's how we get 0, how we get 1, how we get 2, how we get 3 heads. Okay? And then part C here are the possible values of x equally likely to occur. Explain your answer. Well, 0 and 3 are equally likely to occur because that's only 1. Let's do this in a different color here. So 0 and 3 is going to equal that's only 1 out of the 8 different possibilities. Okay, 3 is also 1 out of 8. Okay, well, I guess it should be like x equals 0 is going to be 1/8. But you're getting the idea, I hope. And then also for 1, that's 3 out of 8. And to get 2, that's also 3 out of 8. So they are not equally likely to occur, but 0 and 3 are equally likely to occur, and then 1 and 2 are also equally likely to occur. Okay? All right, that's all we have for the 14A worked problems. If you have any further questions on any of these, please feel free to ask. Thanks.